One of the keys to a long, happy family marriage is knowing how to deal with conflict between spouses, the husband and wife, obviously, and knowing what to do and what not to do. And unfortunately, too few people are aware of these do's and don'ts. And so, Kim, let's talk about that a little bit. You've been married to Greg now for how long?
22 years.
22 years. And you have done a video called I Love My Husband. And I know it's not all been a bed of roses, but somehow you've made it work. And every time I come to your house, I really enjoy just the whole relationship between the two of you and the kids and everyone else. So what are the principles and the keys? And I don't want to be too technical about this, but your philosophy about marriage and how to make marriages work, especially when it comes to tension and conflict.
The first thing that I would say is there's a scripture in Ephesians that talks about husbands, love your wives, and wives, respect your husbands. And there's never a place in scripture that tells wives to love their husbands. It tells us to respect them. And I have realized that loving a man for a woman is really secondary to respecting him. A woman can't love a man that she doesn't respect. And on the other hand, a man needs respect. And there is a fabulous book out there by Dr. Emerson Eggerichs on love and respect. And he really talks about the cycle of when there's love and respect in a marriage and how that enhances and makes a marriage so beautiful. The woman respecting her husband and the husband loving her in return, and that feeds like a wheel in a cycle. And on the other hand, when there's a lack of one, how it really creates a lack all the way around. He's unable to love her because he's not getting the respect from her. And I remember reading that and thinking, what does this look like to my husband for me to respect him? And I started realizing at one point in our marriage, about 15, 16 years into marriage, we started going through some stressful times, and he was having some anger issues, and I started realizing that I was the cause of that, a lot of that, and it was because of a lack of respect that I was displaying to him. Like even when I'd ask him issues with the kids, I really try to make an importance out of getting his opinion on things and then taking the advice that he gives. And so I'm careful not to ask if I don't want to hear his advice or if I don't want to use that advice, but I do respect him, and so I do like to go and to hear his thoughts on things. I started seeing that one of the ways I was not respecting him was if I rolled my eyes about something that he said or my response to something that he said, how that brought out an anger in him. And so we had to really work through that together, and that's one of the humps in marriage that we've had to work through. But we have another thing that goes back to a principle that I learned when I was back in nursing school is when you're in an argument with your spouse, to never ask them the question, why do you say that, or whatever, but instead of using the word why, which is an accusational word, use the word, well, what did I do that made you feel that way, or but use a word other than why, which just brings up people's defenses. And then also, if we can learn when we're irritated, instead of raising our voice, it usually gets louder and higher pitched, to intentionally stop and lower our voice, and sometimes even walk away and come back. And we've learned that we don't have to deal with an issue immediately. If we are too highly fused about something, that we can walk away and let it resolve some, and then come back and deal with it openly and be able to talk in a non-accusational tone with one another.
Well, wait a minute. If I'm taking it that when you say walk away, it's not while the person is talking to you, you walk away, or vice versa, but you're talking about both agreeing to walk away from the issue at that point.
Correct. Deciding at one point, you know what, can we just go diffuse, and then let's just get back together on this when things are a little less heated. And so we've had to do that at times in our marriage, and just kind of walk away, catch our breath, but not in anger, walk away and walk off on each other.
Right.
But with mutually decided, you know what, can we deal with this after we've diffused a little bit?
Got it. Well, it also helps to have a spouse who is willing to work through it with you. And of course, never use the D word, right?
Right, right. And my parents used to say, my dad taught me that growing up. My parents were married 34 years until my dad passed away. And I know that they'd still be married today because they had a beautiful, strong marriage. But he just said divorce is not an option. And so I believed that growing up. And I know that's not the way that America believes today. And people in the world don't seem to feel that way. But that is something that Greg and I both came into marriage with that. We never use the word divorce, and we never, that's our philosophy, that divorce is not an option. We're going to work through this. There's going to be issues in any relationship. Every relationship has its issues, but you have to choose to work through things. I remember my dad telling me one time, Kim, your mom is not the same woman that I married. She's completely different than the woman that I married, but we've learned to grow together as we've grown and changed, and we've learned to grow together. I think it is critically important in any relationship to date your spouse and to keep that romance in your relationship. And Greg and I very much do that. And like the video I did on being crazy about him, I really, honestly adore my husband. My heartbeat really does quicken when he walks into the room. And when I see him in a crowd or whatever, I really am crazy about him. But we are very careful to keep the romance in our relationship and to take regular date nights. Our kids are very active and involved in sports, and so we just grab our little dates wherever we can, whether it's even a hot tub date or whether it's a go out and catch dessert while the kids are at sports or whatever. Or we'll go out and we'll split a meal. We find that portions are huge these days when you go out to a restaurant, so same thing with our dates. We keep our dates affordable, but when we go out, we may split something, and that is plenty for both of us to eat. But we just find ways to make it work and to keep romance in the relationship.
Fantastic, fantastic. This is fun. Thank you, Kim.